Andy, I know you've never been happier than when you're sitting by a warm fire, snuggled up in a flannel and basking in the glow of an old-school budget spreadsheet.
It is a special day I can shut down the world for a little me time.
In a world full of applications, why do these antiquated documents and spreadsheets still run the world? And why haven't they been updated in over 50 years? That's why we want to talk about Coda.
Coda is a new kind of doc that brings words, data, and teams together. It comes with a set of building blocks that anyone can combine to create a doc as powerful as an app.
Coda runs our entire business here at True Story FM, from show scheduling across dozens of podcasts and scripts for thousands of episodes, to budgets and plans and wikis and more.
Coda lets us see our business in a new light. If you'd like to shine a light on productivity in your business and save money along the way, check out Coda today at thenextreel.com/Coda. It's hard to believe that we've been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies. All that said, producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes.
Becoming a Next Reel member gives you access to all sorts of additional and exclusive content. Plus, you're helping us keep the lights on. Just head to thenextreel.com/membership, where you can learn more about becoming a member, which costs a measly $5 a month, practically the same as one fancy coffee drink. And you get so much more.
Every month, we record a bonus episode exclusively for members. Those episodes cover movies from whatever series we're covering at the moment, or add to previous series.
Some movies we've covered that only members get to hear us discuss include The Blues Brothers,
The Russia House,
Naked Lunch,
Independence Day,
The Hot Rock,
and Relic, the better one. Plus, members get to vote on what we're going to discuss for those episodes.
We also record additional pre- and post-show content in regular episodes that only members get to hear,
like conversations about similarly themed movies.
And answering listener questions from our live member chat.
Speaking of our live member chat, we record almost all of our episodes in Discord, where members can chat right along with us live.
Members get access to other members-only channels in our Discord community as well. On top of all that, members get all episodes a full week earlier than everyone else in a private Next Reel feed just for them that includes all the shows in the Next Reel family. The Next Reel, the Film Board,
movies we like, Sitting in the Dark, and more new projects on the way.
To top it all off, members don't have to listen to ads. We've already eliminated those annoying, dynamically inserted ads that, let's face it, we all hated.
We are listening to you.
We love podcasting for a living, and those ads help to pay the bills. Now, we're counting on you, dear listener.
We promise we aren't going back to those terrible, dynamically inserted ads that don't relate to us at all. All we ask is that you consider supporting the Next Reel family of podcasts with a membership.
Again, it's $5 per month or $55 per year. Just head to thenextreel.com/membership.
thenextreel.com/membership. Get your access to early, ad-free episodes with bonus content, member bonus episodes, and access to member channels and live streams in Discord by signing up today.
Welcome to Take 10.
Welcome to Take 10. I'm Kyle Wilson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society. Joining me is Mr. Rob Cabasco.
Hey there.
Hey. So we've talked about movies. We've talked about television. We've even talked about Legos. But one thing we have not talked about is music. So I thought it would be interesting if we actually talked a little bit about music and that was important to us. So we can't just say, like, give me a mixtape. I would love to do that. I was a master of the mixtape back in the time. I have so many people who are, well, a lot of people were. I've gotten some pretty crappy mixtapes. I took the time, man. If I got audio patch cables, I put movie quotes on. I put things from MTV on. I made custom cover art. Yeah, mixtape. I was all about it.
Oh, I must be the horrible mixtapeologist that you were referring to then, because I did not Okay, never mind. Okay.
I went all out for it. The problem is when you get into the modern stuff is that people can just shuffle. Like you give them a playlist and they can just shuffle it. I'm like, no, the point of the mixtape is it was linear. I was telling a story.
It told a story.
That's this song and then this song because I want you to be thinking about that last song when you listen to the next song and then we get to the end thinking about it's telling a story. But I digress. So
wait, hold on. Do kids do that today? Like,
no, they share playlists.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, they do that?
They do it. Yeah, my daughter does. I'm using her as an example. She puts stuff on Spotify. Like she'll put a mix on, and she even this week she does a lot of stuff because she does D&D and stuff. She'll do thematic lists for characters. Like the songs that represent those characters and then put them, or songs that represent characters from podcasts she likes. So like thematically, she'll put those things together. And then people subscribe to them, which always surprises her. She's like, why would anyone care about this? But they're out there. And so you can do it, but it's the same thing. They can just shuffle the music. So basically you're just making like a party mix.
Right.
Which is a different thing. But that's not what we're talking about today. What we wanted to talk about today is I challenged Rob to come up with albums. So specifically, we're not talking about songs, we're not talking about soundtracks, which you'd think we would do because we're here on the next reel. I wanted to have albums. So like specifically albums that you wanted, because back in our day, you had to buy the album because there almost was no such thing as singles. There was some cassette singles back in the time of cassettes. They started doing CD singles a little bit, but even those were like really expensive. And this was way before the time of iTunes. So if you had more than one song, so my rule was always if you had 3 songs you liked, then it was worth buying the album. Because now people think of songs as being, about $1 worth. Well, you had to pay like $15 for an album. If you're lucky and you have a loss later, like Garth Brooks' The Hits, you can get it for $9.99 back in the day. But for the most part, an album was about $12 to $15. So you'd have to get the whole thing. And we're talking about CDs. Like we lived through the age of vinyl, but I didn't have records back in time. Like I had bought some cassette singles and then cassettes, and then I bought CDs.
Wait, did you not own you did not own an actual vinyl album?
I had my parents had album, but like I never went out and bought a vinyl album. Wow. I have never with my own money purchased a record.
Can I tell you this? I have only bought. Okay, I can honestly think of only buying one, and it is right there.
Oh, that's Star Wars soundtrack.
Star Wars, the original A New Hope.
Yeah. I had the Star Wars story album.
Okay.
That was like it was John Williams music and it was narration and they had sound. But that was my parents had bought it for me. I mean, like I used to like listen to records and stuff too, but I had never used my hard-earned money to buy a record because by that point vinyl was pretty rare. Right. Like when I worked at the music department at Best Buy during this period, so it was all CD, and we had some cassettes, but like the cassette areas.
Oh no, we are our coming of age. Both of us was deeply entrenched in the era of the compact disc.
Yes. Do you remember what your first CD was?
Yes, I do, and I still have it.
Huh?
It's somewhere in there. Okay. It is Bon Jovi, "Slippery When Wet."
My first CD was John Bon Jovi, "Blaze of Glory," the Young Guns 2 soundtrack.
Well, I guess that dates us both into a certain era of rock music.
We have just lost all of Gen Z. Sorry, guys.
Hold on. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So I said let's talk about the 10 albums. 5 from me, 5 from Rob. That got us through college. So that was the challenge. And Rob further came back and said, let's do year by year. Right. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting because like our college time overlaps, but it's not exactly the same. So I doubt we're going to see it. But it'd be interesting to see if we have any overlaps. So why don't you start us off? What was your first college album?
So, okay, and how this came about with the years is that when I was coming up with my first albums that I kept thinking of, when I then looked at the years that they were released, it actually ended up was like there was no album in the same year. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just do that. The first year I'm going to do is my first year in college. It's 1990. Yes, okay. This is 31 years ago at the time of recording. Interesting album choice. It is the second and final studio album of a group called the Traveling Wilburys.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And the name of this is, curiously, Volume 3. Because if you know anything about this group, so who are the Traveling Wilburys? This was a sort of ensemble group of names that you may know from musical history. George Harrison, Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, originally Roy Orbison, Jeff Lynne. they got together in the late 80s and they came out with this sort of just fictitious group. All of them were a little eccentric, right? And they were like, oh, we're going to do this fun album of music. And it was a huge hit. Traveling Wilburys, even today, End of the Line, Handle with Care. I mean, incredibly popular, right? So you'll know those songs if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s. So they come up with this second album, and this was after the death of Roy Orbison, Volume 3. I love this. I remember listening through it. It is a weird, twangy sound. I don't know how else to explain it. Inside Out, which is heavy with Bob Dylan. If You Belong to Me, She's My Baby. The Wilbury Twist, which just sounds like no other song that you will have heard. It just made me happy. I just remember my first year in college, and I remember thinking part of this also was like there were not a lot of other guys on my floor of my dorm listening to the Traveling Wilburys, so there was part of that too. But anyway, Traveling Wilburys, Volume 3.
Traveling Wilburys. Wow, I don't think I've ever heard 3. I think I've only heard the first album.
Yeah, the first album. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, this
that was the famous one.
The famous one. The famous one that those videos played on VH1 and MTV nonstop. And it was weird because Roy Orbison died. Like I think End of the Line or Handle with Care. He wasn't alive for the video recording. Like I think that so there was a whole issue with that, and then George Harrison and a bunch of people, they wanted to do another album, and then I think it was George Harrison's idea that was like, well, let's mess with people, let's call it Volume 3, even though there's what's Volume 2? There is no Volume 2. Thanks.
I think if I remember right, it's a very highly designed cover.
Oh yeah,
is that right? It's very artsy. Like it's
very artsy, negative, like dark colors, greens. I think I remember correctly. Yeah. Oh yeah,
I remember stocking it. I remember because I was in the music department, so I mean I was stocking CDs. I remember stocking it in the shop, but I never actually listened to it.
And do you ever had? I mean, and I'm sure there were people like in every music department. It's like, well, I missed Volume 2. Where's Volume 2 at? And you're like, there's no Volume 2.
Yeah.
Anyway,
interesting. Okay, so mine is a little bit later. My first year of college was actually 1993. So for me, this was a weird one because it's just like in yours, Traveling Wilburys, this is not something that would have been normally a part of my circle, but whatever it is, it hit me really hard. And that's Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell 2, Back into Hell. Oh! Like, I remember hearing about Meatloaf, back in earlier times of like Bat Out of Hell, like you and Paradise by the Dashboard Light and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like 70s rock, whatever. Like,
sure.
And I knew Rocky Horror Picture Show a little bit from watching it too. But like, these songs came out and it was huge. And it hit me so hard. I was like, this is amazing. And I started to become a huge Meatloaf fan. And what I found out is that I was actually becoming a fan of two people at the same time. Because Meatloaf isn't just Meatloaf. The real power of Meatloaf is Meatloaf and Jim Steinman. It's the combination of those two in the same way that Elton John isn't Elton John without Bernie Taupin. Like the two of them together is just something magic happens.
Magic.
And something that only music can really do. The collaboration between those two things, it very rarely happens, but when it does, man, like Meatloaf is fine, but with Meatloaf and Jim Steinman is fine, but when you put the two of them together, boy, just something electric happens. And of course, we're recording this after the recent passing of Jim Steinman, so it's bittersweet to talk about this, but those essentially 3 albums that they did together are unreal, because not only is it just like, just this gut rock and roll kind of thing, but it evokes this bizarre alternate world of teenagers and motorcycles and guitars and rock and roll and just like taken to the road. It's like it has a whole vibe that goes along with it. So it's not, because Meatloaf even says, you don't sing a Jim Steinman song, you perform it.
Yeah. You
become it. And it's just, all these songs, like some of them are ones that even Jim Steinman had done. And he put out his own album, and everybody went, eh. But when Meatloaf sang the same songs, people went crazy for it. It's just the weird alchemy of music. And
I completely forgot that it's in '93 because that kept Meatloaf on the radar.
Yeah.
I Do Anything for Love, but I won't do that. That song permeated ad space for so many years. People it was almost amazing to me because when that song came out, it was like, is it possible to open again the power of Dashboard Light, right?
Yeah.
Yes, he did. That song was as big. Oh, that's
not only that's the first song on the album too.
Yes.
like the power ballad. And then Life is a Lemon, I Want My Money Back is like about being an angry youth. Rock and Roll Dreams Come True. Out of the Frying Pan into the Fire. Objects in the Rearview Mirror may be closer than they are. I love a Jim Steinman because he'll just like, nope, we're doing 10 words for the title.
Yeah. Oh, right.
It's like, nope, we're not doing like, nope, going the full distance. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Rock and roll, baby.
Oh, good pick. Okay, I'm totally listening to that album this week.
Oh, and also for those who are a fan who want to hear this in a new way, first of all, there's a great live album because Meatloaf was great live that they put out where he does almost all the songs from Bad Out of Hell 1 and 2 and a bunch of other stuff. I think it was the Bad Out of Hell tour or something like I don't know, but there's like a 2 CD set that's really good. But they also were in the process of making a Broadway musical out of Bad Out of Hell. And so there actually is a cast recording of Bat Out of Hell the musical. It's fascinating because it's all of those songs but tried to make as a musical. And does it work all the time? Not always, but like
no.
There is a sort of intensity to it that it's hard to ignore. It's interesting listen. So if those of you who are in your streaming services, check that one out. It's a lot of fun, even if it doesn't do the same thing to you that these albums do. It's a fun novelty to listen to.
Outstanding. Yeah. Okay, my second one.
Yep.
So this goes to 1991. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. My favorite group of all time is Mike and the Mechanics.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I am a huge Mike and the Mechanics fan. And for those who don't know, Mike and the Mechanics was a side project of Mike Rutherford, who was with Genesis and with Phil Collins. And he had his own. I mean, they've had a long, great career. They've changed a lot. Lead singer. They've gone through a couple different ones and stuff. So everyone knows Living Years, which was hugely popular in the 80s. Their follow-up album, their third album, was Word of Mouth, and that's the album from 91. I love this album. It doesn't get as much love as it deserves. It's got the title track, Word of Mouth, is this stadium-sounding rock anthem with just everyone. I mean, it's got like crowd vocals in it. It's just fantastic. I love their music. Their music is always talking about relationships and the turmoil that happens in life, and I'm always a big fan. And that album was huge for me. 91. Word of Mouth.
Right.
Mike and the Mechanics.
Wow, Mike and the Mechanics. I haven't thought Mike and the Mechanics in a long time.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're not. That's not the only time they're going to be on my list.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So there we go.
All right. So going to 1994. People have a belief, and it's generational, that the music that you listen to in high school and college is the best music ever, and nothing else will ever compare to it. So whenever you go back. And so that's kind of why I wanted to do this, is because looking back, and so nothing comes out today is as good as the music that was and so you can go back to the 50s and they were still saying, everybody's been saying it. But there also are movements that happen in music too. And I happen to catch this wave, and that is grunge. So grunge hit when I was in college, and I was ground zero, like, I mean, obviously I was in Seattle, but like for the movement, like I was the right age of this thing of angry youth, and it wasn't the music of the streets, it was the music of garages, it was rejection of all the previous stuff, and the industry man. The big dog was Nirvana, of course, but we didn't really listen to Nirvana. Our like my group, whatever, was sort of like, yeah, okay, but I really liked angry young men who wanted to talk about what they want to talk about, and Kurt Cobain was sort of doing poetry. Like his lyrics didn't mean anything. So like I like Nirvana, it's fine, but I never really got into Nirvana in terms of I listened to the couple songs and be like, all right, but I wasn't buying the albums. I wasn't digging deep into the things because his lyrics were nonsense. And even he said he didn't really care that much about that. He was more about the feeling of it. Pearl Jam was huge for us, but what I'm going to talk about is the other one. So that was that's probably the number one, just because that was the main one that we listened to. And the other band, of course, was Stone Temple Pilots. So in 1994, they put out their second studio album called Purple. Now, nobody didn't know it was called because it actually used a Chinese symbol for it. You had to find out what it is. They had a weird thing of all their songs. The name of the song is usually not in the song. So it's hard to say, when you talk about Plush, you go, what song is that? And you start singing it, and people go, oh yeah, I know that song. So if reading the list of them, like I read the stuff like Interstate Love Song, you go, yeah, I have no idea. Like, no, you've heard it. I swear you've heard it. Vaseline being the major difference, but like, yeah, this one, it's always interesting to me of second albums. So you're gonna see on this one a lot of like later albums. So it's like first album is sort of like they always say you have like 10 years to write your first album and 6 months to write your second. So I'm always fascinated by the second album because like now you're a star, now you're a hit, now you're touring, and also do all the stuff you did before,
right?
And make new music. And so it's interesting to see who can survive that pressure cooker. And I think they did a great job of this. So there's a lot of great songs in there. And I can't tell you how many times I have listened to this album from start to finish. So much so that I can't even distinguish between the songs sometimes. It's just all, to me, it's just all one mega mix of Purple.
So so when someone says, hey, what's that song you're listening to, and you say Meat Plow,
exactly. Like, what? Yeah, it's like they just had whatever they felt in their head, that's what they put on there. And of course, once again, because we're getting to that age too, Scott Weiland, the lead singer of that, is no longer with us too. Unfortunately, we lost him to an opioid overdose. So, but it's rock and roll, man.
I always forget. Wow. I mean, yeah, like you think of Pearl Jam and Pearl Jam they were from Arizona, right? Wasn't Pearl Jam from here?
I don't know. I thought they're part of the Seattle scene.
Yeah, or Gin Blossoms. I'm thinking Gin Blossoms.
Maybe, yeah.
What do I know? Now, see, this was the grunge, the whole grunge thing. I was right before that. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
that's what I figured.
It's something that never hit me. Or at least I didn't get it, and again, probably and this is the beauty of music, right? I mean, you're only talking about 3-year difference between our start of our college lives, but yet it's different. I mean, though, like the tone and everything. I mean, well, okay, so here I'll change up. So I've done Traveling Wilburys and I've done Mike and the Mechanics. So what did I pick for my third album? 1992, the 5th studio album by English rock band Def Leppard. That's right. Adrenalize. And this is the album because of Let's Get Rocked. So, but why? Okay, this one I remember mainly because let's get. Okay, because in the 80s, Def Leppard Hysteria was it. I mean, that and Bon Jovi, those two things were it. My high school life was that, and a few other things, but. When this came out, I was like, oh, yeah, we're all on this. And that song goes nuts. So big into that. And it's, it's a great, actually, I was listening to it in the past week and it's a surprising, I know people might think if you don't know who Def Leppard is, then you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But for the people who think, oh, Def Leppard, they had range. I know that sounds crazy, but they did. They weren't necessarily, there wasn't necessarily the slow dance song on every album like Bon Jovi, but no, they're pretty good. Like, look for their album. Like, I think that's what it's called. I think it's called like Later On, or like there's a ballroom song but something about I forget the title of it that came out later on. And no, it's really good. Adrenalize is great. You'll enjoy it. It's fun. It got me through 92. So there we go.
All right, so another big tonal shift then from yours to mine. So here I am in 1995. So. Outwardly, as those of you who have been listening to us know, I am a, middle-aged, bearded nerd who's watched Star Wars too many times. Sure. But what you don't know is that inside, I'm a 13-year-old goth girl. There is a part of me that it just has that side of it, too. And so in 1995, when a new singer appeared on the scene, she spoke to me in a way I have never been spoken to by another musician. And that, of course, is the one and only Alanis Morissette. Jagged Little Pill. This album, oh my God, I never saw it coming. Like, of course, the single hits, you ought to know, everybody knows, everybody can sing along to it and stuff too. And I had never heard someone so articulate and angry who could also have a driving rock song, and I could not believe it. I was like, who is this? Where did this come from? I was just so blown away. And what you come to find out is that she was, a young Canadian actress. She was a pop princess. She was in the Miley Cyrus sort of vein of going through. And then the industry, like, basically put her through the gears, and she came out the other side more talented, but angrier because of all the horrible things that had happened to her, and was articulate about it. So she has this side of her. So it's not all, she's not Courtney Love, essentially, who's just rage. She's a wounded bird. She is a poet who has also had horrible things happen in her life and can be articulate about it. So this album is that side and the other side at the same time. So she has these sweet poetic things where she talks about lost love, and then these angry songs about breakups and people treating her awfully, and then about being cheated on. I mean, all these things. But it is such a cohesive feeling of this person I'd never really seen before. It really opened my eyes to all kinds of things you could do with music. And I say, and even now, I bought, even the 20-year anniversary came out, and I bought that too. And the songs still have that same power. Now, as she's gone along, she's basically gotten happier, and I'm grateful for that. Unfortunately, happy doesn't always create great music. So like her last couple albums are just so brown and crunchy, like, so just like, oh, the world and utopia and my family and my kids. It's like, and I'm happy that she's happy, but I miss that. Like, there's a place for this, and I don't think anybody has really stood up and done this as well as she did. But of course, that's my 20-year-old self talking here to my 40-year-old self. But yeah, Jagged Little Pill, man. I like, still to this day, I can throw that thing on. I can sing along to any one of these songs.
And that's great. You bring up her story, because I think just a few years ago, she was going on a whole like media circuit about her postpartum depression she dealt with for like a long time too. I mean, she grappled with this.
Yeah. And of course now there's a musical based on this stuff too, which is once again an interesting artifact. I wouldn't say that's something that I love, but I like that it exists.
So it's a musical about her life?
No, that's the thing that's interesting about it, is it's not about her at all. It's Diablo Cody sort of adapted this, took all the songs that she loved, basically from Jagged Little Pill, and told a story of a modern family dealing with modern issues through the music of Alanis Morissette. Kind of like, they're different people, so different people sing different songs about it. And so it's about coming out and infidelity and and all these different things that this family is going through, told through her songs. And one thing that annoys me is, okay, I know ironic has become a punchline.
Right.
I get it. I mean, even the guys from Lonely Island did a little riff on it and stuff too. I get it. It's like, oh, these things aren't ironic. Okay, like, you just saying that is not a hot take. Like, I don't need to hear that from everybody. They do it in the musical, and it drives me crazy. Like, they're doing ironic, performing it, and one of the characters is like, actually, these things aren't ironic. I don't need your commentary. Like, just let the song be the song. You don't have to be actually about everything.
Oh, this makes now I want to listen. Well, I haven't listened to Alanis Morissette in a long time, so
I'm a big fan of that. Actually, her second album, Supposed Former Infatuation Junkie, that one hit me really hard too. But there's another album that knocked it out of the top slot, unfortunately. But yeah, I've listened to that one a ton too. So those two albums, I think, are like a duet of it shows you all the different sidelines. And I say I haven't hated everything she's done so far, but there's always like one song on it where I was like, oh, that's the Alanis that I like, that I miss.
See, that's important, because even for me, I don't know if everyone has this experience, but I always have an experience. My Mechanics is the one where every single album, there is immediately always one song that I just can't stop listening to, right? Like, and it's them, right? That's what they do. So you get that. That doesn't always the case with every musical group that I have enjoyed.
Yeah, me too.
There are some stinkers. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing that you could have an album speak to you on such a deep level, and then that same group or artist comes out with another album, and you go, who is this person? Like, it leaves you entirely cold. And I've had that many times where it's like, I'm like, we have grown apart. Like Peter Gabriel in the 80s. Could not be more like Peter Gabriel in the 90s and in 2000 and on. No, sorry, man. Like, it's just not the same anymore. Like, once again, this is not me criticizing. Like,
No,
who
of
cares?
course. No, exactly.
You go
how it
one way.
connects.
It's the same with
Yes.
Alanis. He goes one way, I went another, and it's just like we've grown apart.
We become different people.
Yeah.
It's where things are.
It's just, exactly. We had our time together, and we'll always have those songs.
Oh man. All right. Well, this is okay. So goes into my my next pick. This is 1993. I totally forgot this when I was putting all my notes together for this. This album is the 12th and final studio album of American singer-songwriter Billy Joel.
Oh,
that's right. River of Dreams.
Oh, I loved that album.
Okay, and this blew me away in that is his last studio album, because he's done, I mean, everything else after this has either been collections, live recordings, or anything else. And it's amazing to think that's almost 30 years ago. Wait.
And yeah, Rob, what's the last song on that album?
Famous Last Words.
Right.
Oh.
It literally says in the song, "These are the last words I have to say."
Oh,
and he never wrote another song.
Why did I not think? Okay.
Yeah, this is literally his goodbye. Even though he's still around, he's still touring. I mean, obviously, 2020 went crazy there, but like now in 2021, supposedly he's going to be coming back. He had a long residency in New York. But yeah, he has not written a song since then. That was the last song he ever wrote. Like, I think maybe he wrote a song for his wife or something like that, but like never released another song.
Well, okay, and I would just tell you, like, Billy Joel, like, if you don't, I mean, like, if you're a youngster, you don't know who Billy Joel is, probably, right? I don't know. Do you? I don't
know. I mean, like, his stuff doesn't get merchandised as much, like,
right?
There always like stuff like Trolls and Madagascar take these old songs and bring them out. I don't hear a lot of Billy Joel stuff in there, but I guess I always think of him as being in the zeitgeist.
I will tell you this. I think the one line that I remember this about Billy Joel, and the reason why this album is, well, one, because, yes, this is 93. River of Dreams, 2,000 Years. God, I listened to 2,000 Years so many times. I love that. Blonde Over Blue. Great Wall of China, No Man's Land. I mean, and this was a conflicted album because he had dealt with a lot of losses. His business manager screwed him over.
That's right.
I think was a former brother-in-law or something. I mean, like,
he was getting divorced.
Yes, Christy Brinkley. I mean, just all of it. I mean, this was a lot of stuff going on in his life. I remember always loving Billy Joel. Billy Joel has had an incredible career. I mean, again, 12th studio album. All of them have been amazing. I think I remember sometime in the 90s, I remember watching an episode of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. This is a true story.
Okay.
And in one of those episodes, whoever was the culture, consultant was like talking to this guy, and this guy had all these Billy Joel albums, and he said, "You have to get rid of all these because Billy Joel is the iceberg lettuce of music." And I was like, "What are you talking about? How dare you, sir?" Wait a minute. And I always think, like, I think there is a segment of the population who that's what they actually do consider Billy Joel to be. Like this sort of
interesting.
I don't know. Like, what is that? What does that mean? Like plain sheet, like music.
Yeah.
No. Listen to his music. What are you talking about? I mean, maybe it's because we didn't start the fire, or my God, Piano Man, which has certainly probably been overplayed many times.
Scenes from Italian Restaurant. Yeah, but the fact that you could put out, I think he has 4 volumes of greatest hits.
Yes,
4 volumes.
Come on.
That's amazing. Like the fact that you talked about how many studio albums, every one of those had a timeless hit on it. Like, that's not just luck.
No. Anyway, Billy Joel, River of Dreams.
Man, and man, the lullaby that's on there to his daughter.
Oh yeah, Good Night My Angel.
Beautiful.
Yes,
Good Night My Angel. God, just gorgeous. That's a great song. Okay, great choice. All right, so I'm at 1996, living in suburban Indiana. You don't get to a lot of culture come to town. So it's very, very rare that anything. So, like, people did a whole thing. I remember when there's the thing on Facebook where everybody's like, put your top 10 concerts on there. And I was like that you went to when you were young or whatever. And I'm like, I can't give you 10. Didn't go to 10 concerts.
County fairs, not enough people playing at the county fair.
Right, exactly. That was about it, because it's just, like, living. occasionally I would get to go to Chicago, but Chicago was like a 3-hour drive.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
and also I didn't have a lot of money. Like I didn't. But one of the only times I ever got to see a major band at near the height of their power and the other show was REM. So they were on the Monster tour. Now I actually got to see them a couple years ago. So I didn't see them in '96. I saw them earlier. But the album I'm talking about for 1996 is their 10th studio album, New Adventures in Hi-Fi, and a lot of these songs they did at that concert, and so that was an amazing concert. Luscious Jackson opened for them, who unfortunately broke up a while later. Because REM actually broke up too, but this was the last time the original lineup was on this tour, and it was like the biggest rock show I had ever been to, and it just blew my mind. So this is interesting because doing this show is fun because I got to learn more about the album than I ever knew before. So I listened to it a bunch of times, and so the New Adventures of Hi-Fi doesn't have a lot of hits. It doesn't have a lot of the stuff like even from Monster, which is like really intense and had a lot of radio play. It's much more moody and introspective. And I can tell you, in 1996, I was very moody and introspective. I was very much like, oh, what is life anymore? And writing awful poetry. And I mean, yeah, I was very much into my own feelings and stuff too. And this was like just the thought I put on and just like sit and think about life, man, and where I was going. And I would just let this album play. But what I learned doing the research for this is, even though it's their 10th studio album, none of it was recorded in the studio. None of it. Because they recorded all of these songs. They wrote and recorded all these songs while on tour. These were all recorded in stadiums before the show. So like they would write these songs and rehearse them, and then during their sound checks, they would perform the new songs and record them, and that's what the album is, which blows my mind. Like while they're out traveling through the whole country, they're also recording their new album.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. And like this is like one of the last times of the original lineup too, because obviously one of their members had a brain aneurysm and had to leave the band. The magic wasn't the same. Like they said like after that they put out more music, but they said it was never really the same. And so eventually they realized they had broken up years ago, and they finally just formally announced it. Like everybody's like, we haven't seen each other, we haven't recorded anything, we're never going to again. People need to understand that REM is done.
Yeah.
But this is sort of their, I think, in my opinion, as an REM fan, this was like their last good album where it's like just consistent and strong and weird, which REM always has an element of weird, which people need to understand. But I mean, almost all of it is sad and slow, and that's fine. That's kind of what you need that part of it too. So yeah, it's really good. So I didn't even realize it was actually even divided into two sides. It's called the high side and the fi side, because New Adventures in Hi-Fi. Right? Yeah.
I almost I mean, Out of Time almost was my
yes,
top 3 or 4 for 91, of course.
Right.
I mean, geez. I didn't know that about that album though. That was recorded on the road. Does it have that sound? I mean, I don't think
it doesn't really. I mean, it has a sort of like sort of a melancholy, echoey sort of sound to it.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was the style they were going for. But I didn't realize they're actually like in Phoenix Sun Stadium or whatever,
right.
And there's probably like 40 people around, and they're just like,
I mean, you're still sound engineering, but I mean, still,
exactly.
You're in a large space. I mean,
like, and so like I want now the same thing. I want to go back through and listen and think of Michael Stipe singing to 1,000 empty seats.
Oh, geez.
It gives a whole new impression of like what was going on too. REM's always been an oddly introspective band too, but like that adds an element of loneliness that just makes it that much sweeter for me.
All right, there's another album I gotta add to my future playlist.
Yeah.
Okay, so my fifth album, I cheated a little bit. This was at the beginning of '95. I should have been '94, but that's fine.
That's fine.
But I was, again, Mike and the Mechanics fan. This is their fourth album, Beggar on a Beach of Gold, released early 1995. This had a couple of big hits, Beggar on a Beach of Gold, Another Cup of Coffee, Mea Culpa, Over My Shoulder. There's a great song called Someone Always Hates Someone, which is this great song about violence and about how we treat each other. And again, it's Mike and the Mechanics, so it's very rooted in relationships and emotions. One of their last song on it was it's called Going Home. You've heard it. If you've heard this song, you'll know it's been played in probably one or more videos about reminiscing about your childhood. I just love Mike and Mechanics. I wish they would. They are still releasing. They released an album 2 years ago in 2019. They do have a new lead vocals. Paul Carrick had left. And I will say, like, I love their stuff. Genesis was planning on doing a new tour. I think their final tour, it's called The Last Domino. I think that's going to be happening next year. I really wish that they would do a final tour for Mike and the Mechanics. That would be a dream. And come to the West. Come to the West Coast of the come to the Southwest. America.
Yeah.
Yes. If you have to do LA, that's fine.
Yeah,
Phoenix
Vegas,
really
LA,
great.
Phoenix,
yes.
somewhere in the triangle. Albuquerque, come on.
You'll enjoy it. Don't just do New York.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with New York. But anyway, there you go. That's my two. I got two Mike and Mechanics on my list because they were huge parts of my collegiate experience.
Oh, I mean, I could have done this whole list of just on They Might Be Giants, but I decided not to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They put a couple albums in this area, too. So my one is from 1997. But before we talk about 1997, we're going to talk about 2002. So there is a song that came out from Bowling for Soup, who many people might know as doing music for Phineas and Ferb. Right. It's called Girl All the Bad Guys Want. It's a great song, but in it, there's one line that always makes me laugh and is very resonant, and it says, "Her CD changer's full of singers that are mad at their dads." And so in 1997, this is sort of the beginning of that era of a bunch of people who are mad at their dads, and they're going. So this is like the first one where I also caught it. This is sort of post grunge, even though it's 1987. It's still they're still going on, but it's the beginning of something else. I don't really know the music movements as much, but this is sort of the beginning of where the bands come in. So you get like, the White Stripes and the and the Hives and the Shins and stuff will be coming. But like there's this middle period of like just angry men, and it's not anger, but also angry and sad. So what I'm talking about, of course, is Everclear. So in 1987, they put out their third studio album was called So Much for the Afterglow. And this is where Father of Mine comes from, if you've heard that. So basically from the son's perspective of the dad who abandoned him. And so everything in this album has this sort of feeling of like it's rock and roll and it's angry and stuff, but it's also like I'm also hurt inside. So it's a lot of those kind of things, which were the beginning of a lot of music would be this, but like they were one of the first ones where I was sort of like, oh, you can sing about this too? You can sing about how you're sad and still be in a rock and roll band? That's oh my gosh. I mean, Everything to Everyone is a huge song for me. Like So Much of the Afterglow, I Will Buy You a New Life is about a guy explaining to the girl that he's with that like he'll like when he gets big, everything will be fixed. I'm gonna do all these great things. Like as soon as I make all this money, like our lives will be better and stuff too. And you kind of go, but will it? Like, will you ever? It's great. So like so Everclear was big like at the time. Everclear is also one of those that has a strange trajectory of the band too, because it ends up with Art Alexis is like firing the entire rest of the band, hiring all new people and saying, nope, we're still Everclear, and re-recording all the songs. And you kind of go, oh, okay. But for a brief time, they put out a bunch of really good music in that time period. And So Much for the Afterglow is one of the first ones that caught on my radar. So
nice. Oh,
yeah.
Well, good. Oh, man. I am gonna be listening to some stuff for.
But you caught up in your nostalgia now.
Yeah, this is great.
I say normally we do sort of extra bonus stuff. This one doesn't really lend itself to that.
Well, no, it was tough because I also, when I was making this list, and I know we said specifically we're talking about albums, right? Like,
yes,
like
exactly.
Albums.
We could have a conversation about soundtracks and that kind of stuff, and that'll be a whole different thing. I wanted to specifically for this conversation talk about albums from bands.
No, because it was tough because I was big. My height of my musical theater interest was during this time.
Yes,
so
me too.
it was tough. It was tough to basically pick out. And when I went through each year and I was looking at like albums released in this year, there were a couple like these that just immediately jumped out.
Yeah, mine would be a love letter to the South Bend Public Library system for having whoever their buyer was great, because I got exposed to so many great albums because it was the only way to get it, that you could check them out from the library. I would have never heard all these songs without that. So if that episode should come up, I'm gonna have a lot to say about that.
Nice.
So yeah, my only asterisk was, even though I should have graduated in 97, the administration and I had a little difference of opinion about which credits counted.
Oh.
So I didn't actually graduate in 97. I had to add a couple of bonus credits to my list in order to get my degree. So technically I didn't graduate until 1998. So I do have a 1998 album.
Oh, please.
And so mine is, this is another beginning of another movement that I really, really adore. And that's the Superstar DJ. So my one from 1998 is actually You've Come a Long Way, Baby by Fatboy Slim.
Oh.
This was interesting because the artist who created the music didn't actually create any of the music that's on the album, but still did something. So it's remix culture. So this was the beginning of that, where they would take existing sounds and music and all different sound related things and put them together to create something. And like Negative Land is part of this, and all these different things. And even now to DJ Earworm and these things on YouTube that can live on, to take something else and make it your own by altering all sorts of different things. And of course that it ended up, he was one of the most famous because he actually got radio play and on there too. So I mean, like Rockefeller Skank, Right Here Right Now, I mean, all these songs are still, you could probably still hear Praise You in clubs when you're out in different places. I mean, it's still out there and together. And from that, I've actually have listened to his mixes too. So like actually they've put out some of the stuff he would play when he would play a club, essentially what it was, and they would actually have his whole like stuff that he would do, where you take existing songs and remix them and stuff too. It was fascinating to me that someone could just like sit down in front of a computer with existing songs and come up with something new at the end of it. That blew my mind. So I've listened to that album 100 times, and even more. So yeah, so that's my little asterisk at the end, because technically my degree was in 1998.
Well, we won't talk about mine. We'll just leave it, or lack thereof. we will just leave it. I will just leave it with the final words of Billy Joel. That's it.
Okay. Those are the last words you have to say about that?
Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, that's good. I understand.
All right. Well, so those were our list. Obviously, you probably have your own. So if you want to get personal about it, we're up on Discord. We're on all the social media stuff. Put up your 5. Let people know what it was that really meant something to you at the time. At the time that music was the best. When you're in college in 2010, like what were the music when it was awesome? Let us know. We want to hear about it. So thank you all for listening. I'll be back here when we have another Take 10 of something entirely different. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
End program.
I love the conversations that so many of our hosts have had on their shows. Steve and JJ on Trailer Rewind, Ray and Ocean on Silver Linings, even Tommy's short-lived Wait, Hear Me Out.
So many listeners want to make sure they've watched the movie before tuning in to any discussion on our podcasts. Well, the best way to watch the movie is to look it up on our watch page.
Our watch page lists all the movies that we have discussed on all the shows from the Next Reel's family of podcasts, including the one you're listening to right now. It's your one-stop shop for Apple and Amazon links where you can rent or buy the movie.
Trailer Rewind movies like Raw,
The Nice Guys,
The Peanut Butter Falcon,
or Free Fire.
No, Wait, Hear Me Out movies like Josie and the Pussycats or Return of the Living Dead.
Or Silver Linings movies like Repo Men, Daredevil, and The Wolfman.
Plus, by using those links to rent or purchase movies, Apple and Amazon will show us a little bit of love, which allows you to support our family of shows with minimal effort.
It's a great way to support the show and find something to watch.
That's right. Head over to thenextreel.com/watch to pick out your next movie and start watching today.